All right, folks, welcome to the podcast. I don't know how to live. This is Tweester.
And this is the Deuteronomist.
And this time it looks like we're going to be talking about one of the stories that when I was a kid really kind of dazzled me the most. And it's a biblical story about Samson.
Right.
Yeah, who's known as one of the judges who are, as far as I know, these badass figures from the Bible who basically got shit done kind of in a violent way. They did some of the dirty work. At least that's my understanding.
Right, so there are 13 judges in the book of Judges. The book gets its name from the different military leaders. Let's talk about this at the top. The term judges is it's not a great term. Only one character actually does judging, and that's Deborah. All the others, think of them more as leaders. They led Israel's army. Samson is the only one that comes to mind that I think didn't actually lead an army, ironically.
I feel like he's part of the judges, but he feels like more of an executioner than a judge or a jury.
Oh no, Ehud, he actually executed somebody. So he's not the only, Ehud,
Was anyone on a jury? Because then we got all three.
No, unfortunately none were on a jury that I can think of off the top of my head. I think you were just judge and jury if you were
judge and executioner.
Yeah.
They're like, there's no need for a jury here.
But although we call it the Book of Judges, that's from the Vulgate. A bad translation. That's the word they used in the Latin. The Vulgate is the Latin Old Testament. So when they translated it judges. But in reality, the Hebrew word really just means leader or military leader. So that's a better understanding.
Okay. So shouldn't really be called the judges. They should just be called the leaders.
Yeah.
And leaders can totally pass judgment or execute. So,
yeah, that's the way to think about it.
I think that's right. It is a better word for it.
And I should say this at the top too, because I've already started talking about what I do or don't know. My background is in Bible. The Old Testament is sort of hazy, I know more than the average individual. I have 2 masters in religion. I've studied the texts. I've obviously read the Bible several times, but I can be wrong. I'm doing my best here. It's been a long time since I've looked at these stories in depth. So that being said, if I say anything that's wrong or say something that makes you particularly angry, I promise you can find someone to disagree with me if you look hard enough, or I make mistakes because I'm human.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. Sometimes I don't even know how to answer the question, how are you doing? And that's just about me. I am the best person you would think to ask that, but someone else might even know the answer to that more than I would.
I think that's the problem. You're actually trying to answer that question. That's a question you never answer, how you doing. You're actually supposed to say yeah.
Point is, there's always room for interpretation.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, these are texts, they have to be interpreted.
Yeah. So let's go into it. Samson, I'll tell you what I know about him.
Actually, this is one of the most helpful exercises. Yeah, this is really helpful and oftentimes super revealing, because what we think we know is not actually what happened.
What I think I know is or at least what I can remember well. I'm sure I've heard the story a few times, and there's been different details thrown at me. But here's what actually stuck. What I think is the important stuff.
Okay, tell me the important stuff.
Samson, he was a big dude. He was given supernatural strength by God to fight off the Philistines. He would go in and he would fight them himself. I remember a popular little story apparently about him getting captured on purpose by an army of Philistines and then grabbing the jawbone of a donkey and beating all of them to death and going, haha, I was never really captured. And then, of course, we all know about Delilah, I believe it was, who was a Philistine woman, I think she was, who he fell for, or at least she was associated with the Philistines in some way.
Woman, yes.
Okay, who he fell for, and he was never supposed to give away his weakness, but he gave away his weakness to her. She told the army, they used it against him and captured him. He was in a Philistine temple, and they kind of put him on display, and they're like, hey, look at this guy that was really messing with our army. Now look at him. He prayed to God. He was like, please, I know I messed up, but take these people down the way that you wanted me to. And God's like, well, one more chance, I guess. And he does. And he takes down the temple and just demolishes everyone. I've heard a couple of ways. One, that was Delilah was in the temple, so she got crushed with everyone else, but I've also heard that she wasn't there. So like I said, here and there, the details have been kind of fuzzy, but I feel like that's the important stuff that was always thrown at me.
So when everyone hears First of all, Samson never actually let himself get captured.
Okay.
That's the one thing I remember you said. I was like, there's no story of him letting himself get captured.
Damn it, that was so badass too.
No, he just got angry. He got mad.
Okay.
He got mad at and he went down with a jawbone to go kill some Philistines. He does do that. I think he kills 1,000. I'm trying to remember the exact reason he got mad. I think that is after. I'll have to double check and get back with you on that. But he gets mad. He gets upset. Think of Samson as
the Hulk.
The Hulk gets angry and he gets super strong. So he's like a god Hulk. His powers always come, the spirit comes upon him, and then he does whatever it is works. So instead of Hulk smash, it's like spirit and power. But also think of him, he's the worst of the judges. Think of it as a spiral. All 13 judges, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
Samson is one of the last 2 judges who I would consider the ugly judges, and he really is like a spoiled brat more than anything else. There's not a lot about him that when you read his stories that are like easy to love, except for the fact that he kills lots of Philistines. So if you're very like pro-Israel and anti-Philistine, that stuff's exciting, but the rest of what he does is just kind of like scumbaggy and crybaby.
He sounds a lot like, when you're saying this, it sounds like you're talking about modern athletes who, I'm not going to generalize all of them here, but how many times have we heard of a modern athlete? They get paid a shit ton of money. They do the thing with the ball better than everyone else. We all cheer them on. But when you look behind closed doors, they're really being shitheads the rest of the time. Scandals and such, Yeah,
I could see that. Yeah. I think you can get so successful that you just start to be like kind of like a shitty person.
Yeah, like you let it get to your head, you forget where you came from.
Yeah, when you're super strong. Also, I did double check. It's not that Samson, okay, I was a little wrong, you were a little wrong. Samson lets himself get captured, kind of. It's a long story. He burns down all of this Philistine village because he was going to marry this Philistine woman. And of course, they didn't like the fact that he burned down all their grain and lost all their food. So the Israelites come and are like, hey, we need to give you to the Philistines. And he's like, as long as you guys don't attack me, I'll let you give me over to the Philistines. So he does, I guess you could say he does. You're right. He lets himself get captured. But not like it's the Israelites who hand him over to the Philistines.
He's like, I'll be your peace offering, but then I'm going to get out of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happens.
So
and then
that
he kills
way,
him with
the Philistines can't come back and be like, oh, you went back on our deal. They'll be like, no, we gave him to you. You're the ones that let him get away and like kill 1,000 of you.
Yeah.
I see. Very sneaky.
Yeah.
Very sneaky.
He is. So there's a riddle in his story.
Okay.
Can I read you his riddle?
Yeah, read it away.
All right. I want you to see if you can guess what the answer to this riddle is. Let me just read it for you. Okay. Out of the eater, there came something to eat. Out of the strong, there came something sweet.
Out of the eater, there came something to eat. Out of the strong, there came something sweet.
I love riddles, by the way. So this one, what do you think the answer is?
Is it bone marrow?
That's a great answer, because the truth is this riddle, in my opinion, is a junk riddle.
Okay.
I don't know how anyone could possibly ever.
So I don't have to feel bad.
Yeah, no, you definitely shouldn't feel bad. This is a terrible riddle. This is the answer.
What's the answer?
What's sweeter than honey? What's stronger than the lion?
Sweeter than honey and stronger than a lion?
Yeah, the reason he asks that riddle is because he's on his way. First of all, he comes to his parents. This is how his story starts after his birth. His birth is interesting, but
does he punch his way out? That'd be amazing.
No, it's the classic. His mother can't give birth. An angel comes to him, and then it comes to the mother, and then the mother tells her husband. His mother's unnamed, which is unfortunate. It's just Manoah's wife. But Manoah comes to Manoah, tells him about it, and he's like, "Hey, let me talk to the angel." And then from that point on, the angel kind of interacts with Manoah. And suddenly she can conceive. And how should we raise him? We should raise him like a Nazarite. No drinking, long hair. Anyway.
All right.
As soon as he's of age, he's like, hey, I got my eye on this hot Philistine broad. Mom and Dad, this is who I want to marry. So they go down to the wedding. Once they get down there, his father-in-law, or his father-in-law to be, hooks him up with 30 people to hang out with. And on the way down here, what you don't know is that, or what his parents don't know, what no one else knows, is that Samson encountered a lion. The text says this, and I don't understand what this means. It says he tore the lion apart like you'd tear apart a goat.
Like you tear apart a goat. Are they talking about like whenever you kill a goat to like eat its meat, like how you would tear it open at some point in the butchering process?
I assume that's what it means. It's clear like they know what it means.
Yeah.
And maybe some biblical scholar knows what they mean by that.
Something like, you got to get behind the shoulder and then you got to pull down or something. Either way.
The impressive thing is that he killed a lion and didn't tell anyone about it.
Yeah, and not only did he kill a lion, he didn't like bash its head in with a rock or something that you and I would do. He like tore it.
Yeah, he tear with his bare hands. He kills a lion, comes back to it later and finds its skeleton. This is where the riddle comes from. Skeleton has bees living inside of it, and there's honey there.
Wait, how long did he wait before he went back to it?
And the text is a gap.
Okay, I mean, it must have been a while if the meat and everything else already decomposed and like bees have already set up.
Don't look that close at the story.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not, if you start looking at gaps, we'll be here all day.
All right, sorry, getting to the riddle.
Long enough for the lion to decompose. That's what's important.
Okay.
All right. Now, Samson goes to the wedding. His father-in-law hooks him up with 30 friends.
All right.
Right. And Samson...
Nice round number. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, good number.
31's too many. 29's not enough.
Right. And Samson makes a bet. He's like, look, I'm going to tell you all a riddle, and if you can't get it, you all owe me 30...
Women.
No, it's not women. It's far lamer than that. 30 linen robes and 30 sets of clothes.
I mean, clothes are cool too, I guess. Especially when you can't exactly go buy them.
Yeah, back then, I could see how you'd need 30
I mean, you can buy them from
robes
merchants, but like not like, oh, I go to the store.
But like today, it does seem rather underwhelming.
That sounds actually like a bigger wardrobe than one would probably have back then if they weren't someone of like high stature.
Definitely, but he's got 30 friends, so it's really just like, hey, I want
one apiece.
Each one of you to get me an outfit.
Yeah.
And he says, if I lose, I'll give you all 30 linen robes and 30 clothes. And he tells this riddle, and of course the entire time he's thinking the honey in the lion that he saw. So it's like the least clever riddle ever. The riddle's really, it's a shit riddle. What was the riddle
again then? Because now that I know that the answer is the honey.
Honey, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?
But wait, he said honey.
No, he says, out of the eater there came something to eat. Out of the strong there came something sweet.
Okay.
And you're supposed to know that he's talking about lion and honey.
That's shit.
It's a terrible riddle.
It's a shit riddle.
So I don't. Your original comment, and the whole reason I'm talking about this is because you called Samson clever, and I don't think he is. I think he's more like a bully who told him a shit riddle, and they were probably all too afraid to tell him that that's bullshit, and they're not going to go through with the bet because they're like, oh, this guy would rip us apart. Bully's not wrong, because what ends up happening is he told them this riddle, and they come to his wife-to-be. You got to remember, weddings were 7 days back then. So
holy shit.
I know. They come back on like day 3 of the wedding, and they're like, look, if you don't get the answer to this riddle from him, we're going to burn you and your entire city alive. Now, it turns out she does burn, and so does the city later on, but it's Samson who does it.
Oh, okay.
Because she comes to Samson
and is like... He asked himself a riddle in the mirror, and then he couldn't remember the answer. So he had to burn down his own town and wife.
Well, he comes to her, or she comes to him, and the reason I'm saying she, too, just like Samson's mother, she has no name.
Why don't these women have names?
Well, it's because in Judges, in my opinion, part of the reason is because it's in Judges, how women are treated become a litmus test for Israel as a whole. So women are treated really well in the beginning. I'm trying to remember her name. Caleb's daughter, Aksa. Aksa ends up being treated really well by men. She's given twice as much land as she was supposed to be given. Deborah's a judge. There's a tyrant judge, Abimelech, who ends up being killed by a woman who drops a millstone on his head. But by the end of Judges, all the women sort of like, they go unnamed, with the exception of Delilah, who's kind of like a villain. And then there's the infamous story about the concubine who is almost like raped and killed.
If you started writing a story when you were in love, and then midway through she broke up with you, and you finished writing the story while you're like mad and bitter, and you're like, oh, and then none of them have names except for that one who's Delilah, she's a bitch, you saw what she did. Like,
yeah, there is, there is something kind of, this might be dark or kind of extreme, but there's sometimes like a little revenge porny about the end of Judges. We don't have to talk about it, but it's a very dark story. Go read Judges 17.
You shouldn't have sold it so well if you didn't want to talk about it. We definitely have to talk about it now at some point. Maybe not now, but when it makes sense.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when it makes sense. It's just a very dark tale. And also, just let me have a side note real quick. I feel sometimes with discussions like these, that the subtext of discussions like these is that the Bible's somehow on trial, whether for its historical veracity or the benefit of these texts to our lives. And I just want to remind everyone that texts require interpretation.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can spin anything to be a positive or negative. There's a lot of negative stuff here that I won't deny. They don't treat women particularly well, but I think that there's a theological, contextual reason for that. And to be honest, if the Bible was all the time politically correct, and I don't think it would really be worth reading. Regardless, I don't think it helps either liberals or conservatives to put the Bible on trial whenever we talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, if there's anything that Twitter's taught us, it's that it doesn't matter what piece of media from anything that you put out there, someone's going to be like, this bullshit. Like, can you believe they did this or that?
Yeah.
And like, it is up to interpretation, and yes, it's coming from a different time, and you know what? If everyone in the story was shiny and new, not only would it be a boring story, but it also wouldn't feel like real people, because every story from history has a bunch of shitty people that did stuff and some good people that did stuff, and sometimes the shitty people did good things out of nowhere, and sometimes the good people did shitty things out of nowhere. So yes, I'd rather have it this way than something that did not feel like it was at least based upon real living people.
I think if we were to do a modern updating of this story, you got to remember women were some of the most vulnerable people in society at this time. So women are often a litmus test for whether or not a society as a whole is a good in these stories.
Like if they're doing well, society's doing well.
Yeah.
If they're doing shit, society's probably shit.
Yeah, morally, and the theology of a lot of these writers is, God, if the society's not going well, God's gonna like not bless them, and regardless of whether or not this is true, this is the idea behind the author, or not the author, but the redactor or the editor of these texts.
Okay.
He's trying to communicate that when society's not going well, God will punish them with years of war, and then when people are doing the right sorts of things, especially when the judges are doing the right sorts of things, God will reward them with peace.
Okay.
But a good modern parallel might be refugees, or how we treat. I think they would qualify as some of the most vulnerable.
How you
in
treat
society.
the most vulnerable people in society in general. Yeah.
Right.
Like if you're treating the people at the bottom well, everyone's doing well. If you're treating them like shit, there's probably something wrong from the top down.
Now it's still significant. Tons of feminists, I can hear them saying like, the fact is, though, it's women who are chosen, and that's it kind of poisons the well of modern times, because we see women acting as passive agents in such a religious text, and they're right, which is why I'm acknowledging that now. So
but if you go back to those earlier ones with like Deborah and stuff.
Oh yeah, Deborah's a judge.
But this is the like Samson is near the end of the Judges.
He's near the end, so all the women have sort of lost their names except Delilah.
Because things are going to shit.
Yeah, which there's a rich tradition amongst scholarship, because it's not like women didn't exist. And in order to remind us that these women, even if the story's not 100% accurate, or even if it is just a folk tale at its heart, that there were women back then, and that in the same way that Samson has a name and Manoah have a name, we might as well give them names too.
Oh yeah, just placeholder name.
Yeah, placeholder name. Okay. So why don't we name Tweester? What would you name the first wife of that Samson tries to marry? We'll see why it doesn't work out here in a minute.
Okay. Is she villainous in any way?
I think she's a tragic character, because she's forced by her family, like, hey, we'll burn you alive if you don't get this riddle out of Samson. Mm-hmm. And then she ends up burning alive. They don't say it, but her entire town's sacked, so you can infer that she dies in a fire.
Yeesh.
I know. A lot of these stories, I wish you could put a silver lining to them.
Let me just throw any name out there.
It's supposed to be shitty, listener.
Let's call her Abigail.
Abigail, okay, Abby.
Abby, we'll call her Abby. Yeah.
So these men, this is a story I was telling after this. Let's go all the way back. Long discussion. We've had lots of side notes.
Yeah.
All right, this is what happened. Abby, they come to Abby, these 30 dudes, hey, get this answer from him. So Abby comes to Samson and she says, why? She starts to nag him for the answer for 4 days. And finally on the seventh day. This is still
during their wedding.
Yeah,
okay,
7 days. Remember, on the 3rd day they came to her.
Gotcha, 3rd day.
So she starts nagging Samson, and on the 7th day, the final day of the wedding, he tells her. And they come to him, and they give him the answer. And yeah, she's kind of mean. He says, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have figured out my riddle.
Dick move.
I know, that's kind of like, that's not...
You're just now marrying her. Can't be calling her a heifer already. This wedding's doomed.
Yeah, it's not. That's
like, you're already feeling bad about it?
Yeah, and then the spirit rushes over him, and he goes down to Ashkelon, which is a Philistine city.
Okay.
And he kills 30 of their men, strips them of clothes, and then comes back and he gives those clothes to the dudes.
What?
Yeah.
Even the way that he fulfills his side of the gamble.
It's very bitter. It's very much like a bully.
He's like, fine, okay, I'll just go and, kill 30 of your people and then give you money.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, if you killed 30, do you think the marriage is still going on? Do you think it's on or off?
Oh, I would say once news comes back that he killed 30 Philistines just out of nowhere in the middle of his wedding week.
Yeah, do you think it's on or off?
I think it's off.
All right, what do you think Samson thought?
I think Samson probably thought, just another day.
Yeah, you're right. You're right on both accounts. So,
God, what a dick.
Yeah, I know. So her father thinks, oh, it's off. This wedding's off. I better marry my Abby. I better marry Abby. Off to... The father-in-law doesn't have a name either, by the way. But Abby...
We'll call him Jim. Jim,
okay. So Jim, Samson's should have been father-in-law. Jim thinks, oh man, I've got to provide for Abby, so I'm going to marry Abby off to one of Samson's compatriots. But when Samson finds out, he comes back and he's like, hey, where's my wife? Because you're right, in his head, like, marriage, it
just
happened.
Another day, yeah.
Yeah, she was my wife, and it didn't mean anything that I killed 30 of your dudes.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I married her off to one of your buds. Here, take my younger daughter. And she's even like, she's better, isn't she? And he's like, you're gonna pay for this.
So then
he goes out. I'll just tell you what he did, because honest, I think this is just wild. Then Samson went and caught 300 foxes. He took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and put the torch between each pair of tails. He lit the torches and released the foxes into the Philistines' grain fields. So he burned the sack grain, standing grain, vineyards, and olive orchards. The point is, he wiped out all of their produce.
Holy shit! And the poor foxes, like he was too lazy to just burn it down himself. He's like, I'm sending foxes to do my bidding.
To be honest, like, I've read the story quite a few times. Every time I read this part, I do not know what that accomplished.
I think it's the foxes started running with a fire on their tails, but they're like tied. The fields.
And there's like a torch between the two foxes. Like, why did you do... Like, basically, the foxes are having a tug of war over each torch. Like, what did that accomplish? Why not just tie the torches to the end of the fox's tail?
Maybe the tug of war is what keeps the torch up off the ground. Like, it keeps the line taut so that it's catching the fields, instead of where if a fox was just dragging a torch, it'd be put out by the dirt.
I mean, maybe
that's the best I can come up with.
You're right. I don't know what's going on in the text here.
You know what? Let's just say that guy really wanted to incorporate foxes at some point. He saw his shot and he was like, foxes.
Yeah, I do.
Or they didn't know how he did it either. The best explanation, there was a version of me back then, and he was like, I guess he used foxes. I don't know how he did it.
Like, there was like a one city guard, and they all came to him. His name was Randall. Randall, how did all this get burned down? And he just said, Samson. How'd he do it?
Wait, one guy?
Yeah.
Must have been
no, it was no, it wasn't one guy. It was 300 foxes. And then they're like, 300. That number's a little high. Oh, well, it was really like 150 pairs of foxes.
They were working in pairs, you see.
Tied together with a torch.
Where did he keep 299 foxes while he was catching the 300.
Yeah, where did he get all these foxes? I know we're not supposed to look at the story that close, but
the forest is just clear of foxes now.
You know what else I'd like to talk about? That means that we think of foxes. When I hear foxes, I do not think native to the Middle Eastern area or the area of Dan, northern Syria.
But you know what? They probably do, because there's like
desert foxes.
There's desert foxes. There's Arctic foxes. Foxes are a hardy people.
Yeah.
Yeah, foxes are a hardy people.
So it's safe to assume that it's probably not like the red foxes that we're imagining.
Like like North American foxes.
Yeah, it's probably some sort
of the foxiest of all the foxes, I might say.
But I wonder if, like, I don't know what's going on here, but I feel like the author knew what he was saying. And like there's some sort of like subtlety or like some sort of like I need to know something more and really understand like why he did this.
If it was a modern retelling of this, then I would say that he went out and found like 300 foxy ladies who walked hand in hand in pairs and just set things on fire. Like 300 foxes. It would still be just as, Randall, what happened? He's like, this guy got 300 foxes getting to town, and everyone just let him burn it down because they were so foxy that no one stopped them.
I think that explanation makes about as much sense.
Someone just guessed. Yeah, like they weren't sure how he did it, and someone's just like, fuck, foxes, I guess. And then, you know how whenever people are asking for ideas, like when they're brainstorming, usually the first one or two that people throw out are really bad ideas, but they know they're bad ideas. It's just to kind of get it started. So Randall here threw out one, and he's like, this is just to get it started. But then no one built upon it. Instead, they're just like, foxes it is.
Maybe it wasn't poor Randall. Maybe it was just, because Samson's a bully, and bullies aren't smart. Yeah. Maybe he really was just like, I'm gonna get these 300 foxes.
Yeah, I'll show them.
I'll fight them, I'm gonna... Then he had like 300 foxes because it's Samson. He can do anything.
Yeah, of course.
And then he's like, oh, I'm going to need, but I only got 150 torches.
Oh no.
And if he had his wife there, if he had married Abby, right? Abby would have been like, just use your hands, just light it yourself.
Yeah, stop being so fucking stupid.
Yeah, don't be so dramatic. Because this just screams, I need attention.
It really does, yeah. Like he wanted to tell people that he caught all the foxes and did it instead of like doing it by hand.
Yeah. Hey, what is out of the
what is out of the forest?
Out of the swift, something to heat. Out of the bright, nothing to eat.
And someone's like, I have no idea. Are you begging anyone I can ask? Not this again.
Yeah, then you got a new riddle. And what's hotter than two foxes carrying a torch? And what's more eaty than an entire city's production supply?
I think people would stop asking him about riddles. Like they'd just be like, Samson, no more of your riddles. We don't want to hear this.
Riddles are really, that's probably the most obnoxious thing I've ever heard. But he burns the town and they're not happy about it.
So, okay, when you first said it, I thought you meant like he burns the town down and everyone in it. But this sounds more like he screwed them over by burning everything they could have eaten.
Yeah, he screws over the whole people. And the Philistines, they want to know like who did this. And the text just says it was reported. It doesn't say who said it. But hey, it was that Samson.
Yeah, so someone knew that it was Samson.
Yeah, and then they go and they round up and burn Abby and her father to death. So
for like even bringing Samson into their lives?
So basically the threat that happened earlier, like, hey, if you don't find us the answer to this riddle, like we're going to burn you and your household to death. It ends up happening anyway.
Because they're like, you brought Samson, this raging asshole, into town and he's ruined everything.
Yeah. Which, by the way, part of the whole subtext to this story is Israelites aren't supposed to marry outside of... They're not supposed to marry non-Israelites. And the Philistines were, some of Israel's biggest enemies at this time period. Like David and Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine who was fighting for the Philistines. Right, they're not friends. Samson, by doing just talking to Abby, just wanting to marry a foreign woman, this is a part of that whole good, the bad, and the ugly. Samson is all the way at the end. You're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
And it creates so much trouble.
Are the Philistines, were they a larger peoples than the Israelites? It seems like there have to have been so many more of them. You know, there's got to be such a larger population of Philistines, because they're constantly killing them by like the hundreds and the thousands, and they still always talk about what a threat they are. Like, it seems like there's still always more of them.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when you read the Israelite stories, they're always like, well, we killed, how many Philistines did you kill? Well, we killed like fucking like 10,000
Philistines. But
and how many did you lose? Well, you know, Steve tripped.
Steve didn't make it, but he was already sick.
So unless the Philistines are ants, the numbers don't work out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, these numbers are, you know, these texts were written by Israelites. They're very pro-Israelite. Did he actually take a jawbone and kill 1,000 Philistines?
Or did he kill like 10 guys?
Did he even kill anybody with a jawbone?
Right.
You know, did these stories happen?
You know,
or they
a jawbone would
folklore?
really wear down after you killed like the first dozen guys. I feel like that.
We need to have an orthopedist on here, a veterinary orthopedist.
How long could this bone last? You think you could, like, you know, tear through 1,000 guys with it? He'd be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, he'd be like, "I wouldn't use it as a weapon.
Get out of my practice."
Yeah, it probably broke out on like number 3, and then he killed the rest of his bare
Doc,
hands.
how many people do you think I could kill with this jawbone? I'm calling the police.
Well, this is when like the Philistines afterwards they come up to march and take him, and this is actually where he finds the jawbone.
So he burned down the town after killing 30 guys. Well, not burned down the town all the way, but he burned down all their food supplies, so they're starving. Philistines get pissed, and they come to the Israelites, and they're like, if you don't want all-out war, then, you know, give us Samson, because he was kind of a douche. And they go, okay. Is that about right?
They come, and the Israelites are like, oh, I know you're going to edit all this out.
Yes, sure, I will edit it. I will edit it, definitely. No one will hear this, especially not right now, for it has been edited. It is gone.
Yeah, so 3,000 people from Judah travel down to a cave. He had run off to a cave. Regardless, he goes and he kills people with a jawbone.
Okay, so they're like, hey, hand over Samson. And they go, hey, Samson, can we hand you over? Because, you know, we don't all want to pay for that thing that you did. And Samson goes, fine, fair enough. But then, when they're, like, I guess, en route, he just breaks free and just starts tearing through them.
Yeah, and then as his reward for killing 1,000, they get, like, 20 years of peace during the time of the Philistines.
Oh, okay.
And then the story just picks up at some undescribed point after that.
Okay, so what happens after he kills all these guys with a jawbone and there's 20 years of peace because they're like, we just lost 1,000 guys, maybe let's not fight for a while?
Now, yeah, so it immediately picks up. So just for those of you who are following along in your Bibles, all 0 of you, 1 of you, I don't know. Who cares? Someone's
Did you guys not bring your Bibles for this?
I know you should have.
It's okay. You can look at it later if you want to check out details. But for now, we'll get you the meat.
Actually, I'm fairly certain that, is this where, I'm still double checking myself. I care about accuracy, but you know what? Sometimes this story's long and it's not a clean narrative and things get jumbled up. But now we're in chapter 16. It started in 13. It's his birth. 14, 15, wedding shit. And some other stuff he does that he picks up a city gate at one point. Like doors and all, but we don't have to talk about that.
That's pretty badass, though.
Yeah, he does. They come to get him and he's in a city. And I don't understand how this keeps a force from like killing you, but he goes to their city gate in Giza and he picks up the city gate and carries it and puts it on top of a hill. And that solves his problem somehow.
Or maybe they're just like, that looked tough. Maybe let's not today.
Which
like,
is
all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, you know, my ankles are killing me after that long walk here. It's maybe we camp out for a couple days, and then they convince their general to just go home. They're like, come
maybe
on.
They're confused. They're like, who moved the city?
Yeah.
I thought the entrance was...
Hold on a second. There's no city here anymore. I guess we already win, boys. Let's head back home.
Yeah, let's wait. Wait, is that the front door? It's like if I moved your front door and you got confused.
You like open the door and there's no house behind it and you're just like, guess it's already done. I win.
Yeah, what happened? You got to remember, that there were probably multiple stories about Samson, and what's going on here is they're all kind of being smashed together by the editors, by being put side by side in different places, because that's what they would do.
Like you said, not a clean narrative.
Yeah, it's really hard to find. Like, someone didn't sit down and pen this. A redactor or an editor put all these stories together in an order that he thought made sense, and he might have written like a little intro or a little conclusion to kind of make things make more sense.
Yeah, try to do his best to sum it up.
But that's why these things are choppy.
Or her, if she edited it.
Then great
she would
point.
go unnamed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't know who they edited, male, female, probably male. But, you know, it could have been female.
Yeah, because she would have, like, if she was caught editing text, they would have been like, oh, we have to punish her.
They just didn't educate women.
No, that too, yeah. Secretly, some of them got educated.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there.
Secret education.
I mean, just to be clear, I'm pro women being educated.
Oh yeah, it's a lot sexier actually. Educated.
Yeah, I like them educated. Anyway, so
wait, how do you like your women, Deuteronomist?
I like my women educated.
Damn, you nasty Deuteronomist.
I am. How are they gonna know my name if they're not like in the know?
What you talking about?
It's clever. The dude there was a Deuteronomic editor. The Deuteronomist is the person who edited Judges together, so that you all will be in the know. And you can talk about the Deuteronomist. It's our shorthand, scholars' shorthand. Like I've written so much scholarship. It's biblical scholars' shorthand, or just their appellation for.
It's like a title that gets passed down afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Like anyone can step into it.
You could be a Deuteronomist. Yeah, anyone can. You know, as long as you put the work in, then you get to be a Deuteronomist.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody, if you put the work in. To get on this podcast, you can be a Deuteronomist.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like the Doctor from Doctor Who or James Bond.
Exactly. So we're actually about to get into the part of the story way back at the beginning of the podcast. The one part that you seem to know the most about. You didn't know anything about his wedding or the foxes or his birth.
Not at all.
But you did know about Delilah.
Yeah.
And we're almost there.
Okay, we're almost at
so
Delilah.
Chapter 16. It begins, Samson, he's going to Giza, which is a Philistine city along the coast, like, of the whatever. It's the Black Sea.
Sure.
Israel's beside. I'm not good at geography. I should have had a map in front of me. Doesn't matter.
It's fine. Giza, it's still same Giza, right?
Yeah, Giza.
Okay, wow, the same one even to this day.
Or Gaza. Did I say Giza? Giza's in Egypt. Ooh, you need to edit that out too.
Nah.
Okay.
I mean,
Gaza.
Yes, it has been edited. I have proclaimed it edited. And
everyone out there is like, this dude's an idiot.
No one will ever hear
The pyramids of Giza?
Especially right now.
Okay, good. Thank God. God.
So,
it's the pyramids of Giza. He's in G-A-Z-A, Gaza.
Like the Gaza Strip, right? We're saying Gaza?
Maybe, probably.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah.
Anyways. Unless it was like 2,000 years ago, I don't know anything about it. Modern geopolitical relations, just...
If you get lost in the Middle East, you need a 2,000-year-old map.
Exactly. That's all.
The continents might have shifted a little bit since then, but you can figure it out.
Yeah. So Egypt was where... Okay.
Anyways, go on.
All right, so Gaza, he's in Gaza, and he's down there seeing a prostitute, which he shouldn't be. So we already know at the beginning of the story that he's up to no good.
My God, Samson.
Right. Oh, this is where he carries the gate. I was like, I thought that happened. So he's with a prostitute, and people come to kill him.
Okay.
And then he just takes the gates of the city.
Get him while he's horny, man.
This is when it happens.
Nope, moving the gate.
Yep. And then immediately after that, this is just like a one little paragraph one-off, him talking about a prostitute. But I think the proximity of him with a prostitute is why. So for those of you out here, let me blow your mind for a minute. If you grew up in the church, you're probably told Delilah was a prostitute.
Yeah, that is what I thought.
She's never in the text identified as a prostitute. Now, Philistines do come to her and tell her to seduce Samson to find out what gives him such great strength. But the text never actually identifies her as a prostitute.
When they came to her, did she already know Samson?
Or
were they just like...
There's a gap in the text.
There's a gap in the text?
It's just paragraph, he goes to see just the story of him moving the gates, and in the very next paragraph, sometime after this, It's that transitional sentence. I think that's an editor. Sometime after this.
Right.
The editor wrote that, and then the story starts in the Sorek Valley. Samson fell in love with a woman whose name was Delilah. So there's no hint, and that's her introduction.
So we have no idea if she already knew Samson.
We don't know.
Like if they met organically, and then the Philistines came and... Okay.
We have no idea. They could have... I like to think that she wasn't a prostitute, simply just to resist all the preachers who say that she was.
It seems like in those days, and I'm just guessing here, but it seems like in those days, if someone was a prostitute, you knew about it. Like like it was known throughout the town. This person's a prostitute and that person's a prostitute. This person is not. This person is not. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that...
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
The main point is, the text doesn't say she's a prostitute. Call her a prostitute at your own peril.
I like to think that she's not a prostitute, actually.
We're going to read into this in a second.
Because if it doesn't say it, then fuck that. I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to... In my head canon, she was just some lady who... Samson met, and she was like so awesome that he was like, oh, you and me, that's it.
I mean, he's got a history of falling in love with Philistines, and he slept with his wife. He felt like Abby, we named her. Abby, his not really wife, his fiance. Abby was a Philistine. He's sleeping with his Philistine prostitute, and now he's fallen in love with Delilah, which is a Philistine. Remember, Israelites, they aren't supposed to.
God, I gotta meet a Philistine.
He really sucks. Yeah, you do. I don't think there are people anymore.
Oh no! All of them?
I don't know.
Damn it!
Maybe they probably got assimilated.
I'm sure there's a few of them that assimilated's fine.
Yeah.
Like they mixed in with other peoples. I was just hoping that it wasn't like, no, I mean all of them are just wiped out.
Yeah, it probably wasn't like, Scourge, Burn and Scourge, or whatever it is.
So go
Scorched
on.
Earth.
What happened after him and Delilah met?
All right, and I'm going to drop a little bit of interesting. I'm going to just give you a little taste. One of the passages I'm about to read, if you're really interested in, there's not actually a lot out there. You could become an expert in it in an afternoon if you spend about 10 hours reading. But there's queer criticism in the Old Testament. And it's just anything that's like considered sexually devious falls under sort of the umbrella of queer interp or queer criticism. Really interesting work.
What counts as sexual deviance? Anything that's just not trying to make a baby?
The term they use, anything that's not heteronormative. Yeah, I know.
Like, well...
yeah, what's that, man? Anything that would be considered, taboo, these sorts of things, was a queer reading of these passages for specifically people who are really into bondage.
Okay.
And we'll hear why. I might even read this part in full, and I want you to hear and think about the connections to bondage, and specifically the trust between two people who are like what's it called? A big and a little.
Oh, you're talking about like S&M partners and stuff?
Yeah, people who are like...
It's a dom, and... I feel like I always hear slave, but I don't. Maybe there's another word too, like a dom and a slave.
Yeah.
Oh no, dom and a sub. A dom and a submission. It's one person's dominant, the other person's
Someone
submissive.
out there's an expert.
A dom and a sub.
I see you pretending you don't know. You just took a lot of time, and you're like, oh, I think this is what it's. And you just okay.
Yeah, as I'm like shuffling my handcuffs underneath the seat.
You knew all along, but just it's easy to project these sorts of ideas onto the text. It's just interesting ideas, and I think there's something to it. So okay, so people have come to Delilah, and they've promised her 1,100 pieces of silver if they can get this info from him. And there are 4 encounters. So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me what gives you such great strength, and how you can be tied up and made weak." Tied up and made weak.
Okay.
Samson replied to her, "If someone ties me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that aren't dried out, I'll become weak. I'll be like any other person." They do this. Philistines come. He kills the Philistines. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You made a fool out of me and lied to me." Yeah.
What? She's mad because she tried to kill him and it didn't work?
Oh yeah, this pattern's gonna happen 3 more times. This is why it's kind of like semi-sexual.
It does seem like that, yeah. He's just like, haha, babe, tricked you, killed all your friends.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh no, you've got to tell me. you've got to tell me the real answer. And then he gives another answer.
He's like, why would I trust you? And, oh, you're naked. Okay.
Yeah. It does seem like Samson and Delilah are playing some sort of game.
Yeah, it's like a very straight... You know what? At this point in his life, he's been just killing people left and right, burning down through towns. Like, he probably feels invincible. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, and I also think it's sort of... It's not just that he feels invincible, but I think if we read the what's it, S&M relationship
on
the
sub and the dom, yeah.
Suddenly Samson becomes this big powerful character. He becomes the sub, and she's the dom. She's the one who's always tying him up.
Oh, he's like, I'm willing to like be vulnerable in front of this person or something kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because he's like, otherwise I'm just the biggest badass around.
Even if it is a feigned pseudo, he's only feigning.
Yeah, it's a lie, but...
Yeah, I don't think any sub really
so are movies and books that we read, and like fiction is a part of life.
Yeah. And, you know, there are people out there who are probably thinking, well, in the original text, there's no way this is the author's intention. That's like the least interesting question in front of us, you know. I think it's fun to read texts through these sorts of lenses.
I do. Wait, before we move through the next part, let's go ahead and take a break.
Sure.
Just a quick break, collect ourselves, and then we'll get through what is my favorite part of the Samson story. At least I think it is. I'll find out.
Sure.
And we are back with Tweester
and the Deuteronomist.
After that short break, let's go ahead and recap exactly where we left off here.
So Samson had just spent a night with a prostitute. Sometime later, he meets Delilah, and I was just sort of trying to tease out this sort of S&M relationship between him and Delilah.
Gotcha.
Now, I know I kind of jumped all over people for thinking that Delilah is a prostitute, and here I am reading a lot into the text, but come on, have some fun.
At the same time, they didn't say it, and they bothered to... I would say the best evidence that she's not is that they bothered to say he was visiting a prostitute before her.
Right.
But then they didn't bother to say she was a prostitute. So if they seem to like need to tell you when he's seeing a prostitute, but they don't tell her that she is, or tell you that she is one.
Yeah.
That makes me think not a prostitute. This makes he just met some Philistine woman and he was like, you're even cooler than the last one that didn't work out.
And it also says that he loved her. Samson fell in love with a woman whose name was Delilah.
Well, he forgave her for almost killing him after asking him about what his weakness was the first time, so he's got it, right?
I think it's like hubris, right? Like total
like
overconfidence.
Part love, also part overconfidence, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what failure has he encountered in his life up to this point? I mean, everything has worked out for him, and when it didn't, he smashed his way to it working out for him.
He's been disappointed, but he has not been defeated.
Oh,
I would say. At least that's what I'm guessing here. Yeah, that's what I'm taking from it.
His enemies have been defeated.
Yeah, he's been disappointed by his enemies sometimes, or disappointed by people that are close to him, but he's never been defeated by them. He's always come back and defeated them.
Again, if this story was originally a folk tale, and i.e. pro-Israelite propaganda, specifically pro-Dan, because he's from the tribe of Dan, then this is very much like...
What a nice, easy name to remember. The tribe of Dan.
It is.
You know?
It is, and yeah, it's like, you know, our tribe, this dude, he's a folk hero. He killed, look at all these Philistines he killed.
I just imagine the guy who started that tribe, they just kind of came up and he's like sitting there. He's got a jug of whiskey beside him. He's like whittling away at something. I don't know, maybe making a horse out of wood. And they're like, could I be a part of your tribe? He's like, sure can. Welcome to the tribe of Dan.
Tribe of Dan.
Tribe of Dan, welcome.
It's not as hard as the other ones. This Ephraim, Manasseh.
Yes,
weird.
Those sound like tribe names.
Yeah.
Dan's just some guy.
Dan.
Like, I could hang out with Dan.
Yeah, Dan is, there's nothing intimidating.
Dan never says anything mystical. Dan's just like, yep, got a fish to eat.
Dan is like Samson.
Got to drink clean water. Sometimes got to heat it up, get it clean. Like, Dan says that kind of stuff all the time. That's Dan's tribe. It's just a very matter-of-fact tribe.
Dan could have been a feminine name.
I guess it could have been.
I mean, we don't know.
That's right. Ashley used to be a guy's name.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Dan is a woman down by the river.
Down by the river?
Yeah.
That's right. I did say that. Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
River tribe.
Okay, so Samson's being tied up.
Samson is being tied up.
He got tied up once. Just to recap, he told her 7 fresh bowstrings that aren't dried out. Key detail. I'll become weak like any other person. She ties him up. Philistines come in, he rips out the bondage, kills him. All right, this is her.
Now she's down 7 bows too.
She is 7 bowstrings. So Delilah says to Samson, you made a fool out of me and lied to me. Now please tell me how you can really be tied up.
Yeah, and I have to keep my hair down from now on because you ripped through all my bows.
Wait, what?
Bows?
Bowstrings.
Oh, like a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
I was thinking hair.
That's a that's a key clarification.
Okay, yes.
I don't think they put bows in their hair back then. I mean, maybe.
No? I just assumed they used something to tie it up sometimes.
I mean, yeah, but they didn't have like scrunchies.
No, I wasn't thinking scrunchies. I just thought like maybe some ribbon and then you tie it up like a bow.
Yeah, they're not presents, they're people. This isn't Christmas.
No, that comes later.
Jesus hasn't been born yet.
Yeah, there's no Christmas yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's no day of Samson, because I'm sure that'd be a fucked up day.
Samsmas?
Samsmas?
How would you celebrate Samsmas?
I
get a lover to tie me up.
You tell shit riddles and then find something to destroy when you got mad.
like a breaking room.
You'd
like
go to a friend's house who set up a buffet and you would just ruin all their food.
So you just be it'd be a day where you were generally unpleasant to be around.
and you'd chase down foxes.
Yeah. There'd be a lot to do with this day.
He who chases down the most foxes gets the most fire.
But and then Christians would complain when it got taken over by major conglomerates that they were taking the Samson out of Samsmas. Because suddenly it became all about family and not about the true meaning of Samsmas, which is burning foxes.
Burning foxes.
And being a bully.
Yeah. It's the war on Samsmas.
Yeah, but I think it might be cool to have a Samsmas if we focused on like I said, I'd tie up a lover for Samsmas.
Yeah.
That'd be fun, and then I could break out.
You could tell her, give her a fake weakness of yours.
Yeah, she could say, "How can you really be tied up?"
Yeah. Oh no, it'd be like, if you held down on this shoulder, this is my bad shoulder, so I would not be able to get up, but that's my good shoulder.
Oh yeah.
And so when she tries to hold me down, I'm just like, pop.
Fake weak spots.
Fake weak spots. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
smart.
Oh, I've got really bad vision, but it's 2020. You're just put on glasses that don't have. Like obnoxious hipsters, you put on glasses that don't have real lenses.
This is a total side note. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And I know we were just talking about S&M, and it's weird to bring up my dad. But growing up, my dad always used to. I asked him when I was a little kid. This is just sweet. This isn't funny. This is going to be terrible.
I'll make it funny.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Make it sweet.
Okay. So my dad, when I was a little kid, I asked my dad what his weak spot was, and he told me the center of his hand, which is just smart. Because I'm a little kid, so immediately I'm going to touch it. And to this day, if I squeeze his hand and look at him, he'll pretend like that hurt him.
You're like, oh, Deuteronomist, you got me. You got me. You're like, yeah, got you good, Dad.
Got you good, Samson. So, all right, so he's already been tied up once. She asks him, what can you do? And he says, blah, blah, blah.
No, he is not well spoken.
If someone ties me up with new ropes that haven't been used for work, I'll become weak like any other person. Again, it happens, and he kills the Philistines.
Like I said, never run out of Philistines.
Never. There are so many.
And they can still constrict people for this.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I know the last 2 groups didn't work out, but you're the group that's going to get it done.
Third try is a charm, right? So she says, up to now, you've made a fool out of me and lied to me. Tell me how you can be tied up. And he says to her, if you weave, this is where it gets I can't even, actually, this is where it gets super bondagey, actually.
Can't wait to hear it. Let's do it.
If you weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric on a loom and pull it tight with a pin, then I'll become weak like any other person. So if you braid my body, his hair, into a loom, then I'll become weak.
Okay.
Which just, it's
just always
it's always super restrictive.
There's always tying or restricting or something like that.
Yeah, in all of these. And I don't know why in my mind that
okay.
becomes
Oh
the
no,
most
I
bond.
figured it out. He's into bondage.
Yeah.
He's tricking her into
tying him up.
Yeah, and he's like, ha, you're doing the thing I like.
You see, though, I don't think he's tricking. I think this is where I think that, there's room in here to read them maybe as they're both lovers and they're playing. This is a game for them.
Yeah.
They've done this before.
Maybe he's not smart enough to realize that Philistines coming in and trying to kill him isn't just coincidence.
Yeah, this is where, yeah.
Damn it, Delilah, we gotta try again. These Philistines keep busting in.
Yeah, because people are going to be listening to this, they're going to be thinking like, and I hope it causes you to go and pick up the Bible, pick up the book and actually read the story for yourself. They're going to be thinking, there's more to the story than this. There's got to be, he's just probably like skipping ahead.
Yeah, how could...
No, like this is... This is all the info you're given.
That's all that's there.
There's not more info here. I'm just skipping the repetitive parts. Like, really, there's tons of gaps in this text. We just don't know why. There's just not a lot of info here.
So what happens after she gets his hair in the braid?
Okay, same, what you'd expect. They come in... He breaks out of the braid and kills him.
And then he just breaks it open and starts killing.
Yep. And apparently she did this while he was sleeping, braiding his hair into a loom.
Okay.
Which I feel like that would not, one, wake you up, and it would also take longer than a night. If you've ever seen people work with a loom.
Yeah.
And I'm using my hands to show how they do it.
Maybe she was very
People
proficient.
put tens of thousands of hours into weaving a single blanket. I said tens of thousands of hours. It's...
Maybe she didn't get
lot of
like
time,
maybe she wasn't trying to
hours.
get all of his hair. She was just trying to get it started and hope that counted.
Oh, like really lazy, like a bad student, like
Yeah.
only getting like the one strand of hair because the professor said like that you've got to talk about this one subject. So there's a lot of filler in the blanket.
She just got like an inch worth of hair in the loom.
Wait,
and she's like, that should count.
It says 7 braids of his hair she got into the loom.
Okay.
So maybe like 7, like maybe she just kind of bunched a bunch of hair and just kind of
put it through.
I'm using my hands, you can't see it.
Yeah, you know what?
It makes sense.
Even seeing the hands, like I'll have to go look up a loom later.
Okay.
So
if saw the podcast, go online, look up a loom, and imagine how someone would do that.
Or again, it would be like the veterinarian. I'll go find someone who's like a loomist, and I'll be like, how much human hair do you think I could get in that loom? And they're like, I'm calling the cops.
Exactly. But Samson was into it enough, apparently, that he let her do it.
Okay. So we did that, broke out, killed him.
So this also, I find interesting that, rule of 3, you think on the 3rd time the truth would come out. But no, it's like she's asked him 3 times already. Mm-hmm. And now she comes back to him a 4th time. And now she gets kind of personal. Here's what she says. How can you say I love you when you won't trust me? 3 times now you've made a fool out of me and not told me what gives you such great strength. She nagged him with her words day after day and begged him. I'm sorry I used the word nag. It's a kind of charged word. That's what the text says.
That is what you're doing if you're constantly bothering something about someone that they don't want to talk about or they don't want to deal with. Yes, that is the word for it.
Okay. I guess you're right. That's nagging. So nagged him with her words day after day and begged him until he became worn out to the point of death. She literally nagged him to death.
Holy shit! That was his weakness all along.
Yeah, that's a good point. His real weakness wasn't his hair.
Actually, this is the second time someone's would have nagged something out of him.
Yeah, because his exactly, his Abby.
Yeah.
Abby
it just has
him.
to be someone that he will not kill, and they go nag him.
Yeah, so when he can't solve his problems with violence,
he solves problems by just giving in.
Yeah. So, I never thought about that. I like that. All right. So he told her the secret. He said to her, no razor has ever touched my head because I have been a Nazirite for God from the time I was born. If my head is shaved, my strength will leave me and I'll become weak. I'll be like every other person. And of course, she saves his head. This is where the story becomes it. I don't think it makes any more sense with S&M. There's no more bondage. Maybe there's no more bondage, no more love.
Shaves his head.
I wonder too, and now we're filling in gaps because the text just doesn't say, but was Delilah like upset that all of a sudden the fun and games stopped? I mean, she's getting 1,100 pieces of silver. The text says they bring the 1,100 pieces of silver.
Yeah, like she's
getting paid for this.
Oh, I'm getting rich off this. But also, like, maybe she was having a good time just kind of hanging out with him, and, like, she never really wanted him to tell her. She was just like, no, just, you know what? Maybe it was, like, the nice in between. She's like, I don't have to tell my people that I am not trying to do their bidding. Like, they know I'm still on their side. But at the same time, he's not giving in, so I get to hang out with him, and I don't disappoint them. It's like having your cake and eating it, too. But then he does give in, and she's like, "Oh shit, that was the one." I'm just guessing here.
Exactly.
Again, this is just throwing it around.
Yeah, I really wish this wasn't like 4 chapters about Samson. I'm much more interested in Delilah.
And like her side, it'd be nice if there was like a chapter on her side of the story. That would give a nice, well. You
know how I said that there's like this whole tradition, modern scholarship of like naming these women who don't have names. There's also a tradition of like filling in these gaps, like writing the story, but from, say, Delilah's perspective.
Okay.
And I bet you if you Googled it, you could find people who've done it. It's
Even-
out there. So
even
this
though it's
desire to hear what might have happened, I
It's
mean,
out there. Other
yeah.
people have wanted to know.
yeah. And I know you're saying, but, you know, that's not what the biblical author wrote. Well, you know, if he made it up, what makes anyone
Makes it
else?
any difference?
What
Yeah.
makes it any different? I'm not saying, you know, if you don't think he made it up,
And even if
that's okay.
If you don't think that he made it up, he still didn't do his good journalistic duty.
Yeah, he
by
didn't do
presenting
his
more
due
sides to the
diligence.
story. Yeah.
yeah. Where is Delilah? I want to know more about Delilah.
There's Delilah's side of the story. That'll tell us more about Samson. Sometimes you got to hear from someone else to learn about a person.
Yeah, but the rest, this is where you were most accurate, I feel, in your
Okay, we're getting to
original
my favorite
accounting.
part. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, favorite part, it's sort of sad, but also like he was an asshole. I can't believe we were taught this story in Sunday school as little kids. I was.
Well,
As though Samson, because I hope if you take away one thing from this podcast, is that Samson wasn't really a great guy, and I'm not sure why his stories are so popular.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a judge of Israel, yes, and he killed Philistines, but he was clearly like a bully. He wasn't that smart.
yeah.
He slept around with women he shouldn't have been. He sounds more like there's not a lot of, like, he's not a great guy. And the text and the author didn't intend him to be a great guy.
Yeah, no, this is like the end of
the
end of the Judges. I will say that, like, you know, I used to be a practicing Christian. Now I am not. But then, I did go to Sunday school like everyone else, and I really latched onto this story, among others. And I do remember that I feel like even the people that were teaching it to me didn't really learn the rest of the story themselves either, because when I would press them for more of the story, they'd be like, oh no, that's it.
Yeah.
Either that or they just didn't want to tell me because they knew the rest of it was really bad. But yeah, the parts that they told me is mainly the part about him getting captured and then breaking out and killing the 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone, and then this part coming up, and this is like, and with Delilah minus the bondage, it went straight to the hair with them. It was straight to the hair, and then what's coming up next. That's all that was really taught to me, and I found even by pressing, I wasn't told more. So I wonder if even the people that taught me, and I've asked more than one, if they even knew.
Yeah, I think the reason, like the killing of the jawbone, which you remembered, I think the reason that we'd like to tell those stories in Sunday school is because they're kind of pro-American patriotism. This self-sacrificial vision of like a soldier. Like, we'd like to hear that Samson, because this is, I mean, we're at the end of the story. His eyes get put out. The Philistines take him. He's got no more strength. They throw him up at a party, put him between two columns. He's kind of laughing at him.
Blinded, hanging between columns. Like,
and then he
not hanging by the throat, but like tied between them.
I can't remember if they bring bondage back.
I feel like they're nudging him, and they're like, "Hey, you always wanted to get tied up. Hey, old Samson, enjoy the party."
So there's a celebration going on, and Samson, he was called from
the
a
celebration
prison.
was celebrating.
No,
was it celebrating his capture?
No, there's just a.
So that's got to be an old hit to, because he's got quite an ego, it seems. I bet that was a hit to his ego
Wait,
too.
I'm skimming it really quick. At the height. Oh wait, yeah, maybe the celebration was at the height of the celebration. It just says at the height of the celebration. Mm-hmm. They're kind of glad that their God has handed Samson over to them. So yeah, you might be right. They might be partying because of that.
They're like,
and they just have, actually they say then they had him stand between the pillars. So I don't think he's tied up. I think that's just in movies where he's chained to the pillars.
Oh, they just had him standing there, and they're like...
I mean, he's blind and
like,
weak.
He's blind and weak. What's he going to do? They probably beat up on him, too.
Yeah. I mean, what do you got to fear from a blind, weak guy? You don't need him chained up.
Yeah, no.
He cries...
Oh, no, it's Daredevil!
Yeah, it's in the Bible. Go read your Bible. He becomes Daredevil. He learns echolocation.
He does.
And then that's where Daredevil comes from. Yeah, so he cries out to God, and he says, if you can make me strong, just this once more... God, so I can have revenge on the Philistines, just one act of revenge for my 2 eyes. Which, by the way, Judges is not pro-revenge. This is just one of the many numerous ways that Samson's evidencing how much he sucks.
Yeah.
But he calls out to God for revenge. Maybe God sucks for letting him do it. But God gives him the strength. He pushes over the 2 columns, brings the whole temple down, and Samson dies there.
You know what? if I am remembering correctly,
Yeah.
the temple that he was at, that they were having that big party, was a temple of their god of, I think, grain and agriculture. It was their food god.
Dagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was their food god. It was like a Sumerian god or something like that. Or
Sumerian and Philistines are two
but
different
sometimes
people.
people share gods.
Yeah, they did. I can't remember
I
Dagon.
can't-
I think Dagon, they probably a sea god because they were Philistines, like they.
I remember
worshipped
it
on
was
the
it was
land.
some sort of god of food.
No,
It was
there's
like-
so
or
there's a
agriculture
serpent
or
god
something.
of food that the Babylonians worshipped, and in the
Okay.
Apocrypha, there's a really fun text where Daniel kills a god. I think might have been Levi. It wasn't Leviathan. It was the Babylonian god that's like this dragon / serpent.
Mm-hmm.
He kills it by baking a cake
As you
and
do.
feeding it to the idol, and it just bursts apart.
Haha.
So go in the Apocrypha and look
Ooh,
up
does that cake
Apocryphal.
explode?
Yeah. It's I think there's human hair in the cake.
Oh, well, I mean, I would explode too if I was eating into a cake and there was human hair. I'd be like, nope, that's it. I'm dead.
I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong about weird.
So,
he baked
so the
weird crap into
Samson
the cake.
temple, the temple that Samson was at, was it not for a god of like
Yeah,
agriculture?
Dagon.
Okay,
I don't
so
know. I don't know who Dagon was.
Okay.
Eh,
That might have to be something that,
Yeah,
look
go-
up
go
separately.
look it up.
But I thought I remember.
Dagon. Go.
I thought I remember him being a god of some sort of agriculture, basically tying back into like, this is the guy that helps get us our food, and Samson already
Maybe.
burned down their grain fields, and
Maybe.
then now he destroyed the temple to the god that helps them with food. So it's like he's always starving these people.
Maybe that's entirely possible. Yeah, that would actually be.
That'd be a
quite
nice
ironic.
little, yeah, it'd be a nice little like kind of bringing it all back.
Yeah. You hearing this, biblical authors? If you haven't already, change it.
Yeah, we need
Take
it,
Tweester's advice.
we need it to be right now. You need it to be.
It'd be
we
a
all
great
need it.
twist. Regardless, the point is, like, the story ends, he dies. He does get buried with his father, which is kind of like a last courtesy to Samson.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not supposed to be a great guy, and I don't think he's the kind of person that we should actually emulate.
Yeah.
He's like the last in a line of crappy judges.
Just in my opinion, the way that I perceived the last part of that story, it was a redemption and reckoning tied into one. Because clearly God had a bit of a problem with the Philistines and the things that they practiced and the things that they did to even allow Samson the strength to, go against them in the first place.
Yeah,
It seems like.
I think it's easier to read it as a redemption tale for Christians, because Christians love redemption tales.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
think what might have been happening in the original is simply like the story outside of Judges. So I've talked about what it means inside of Judges.
Mm-hmm.
The story in its original form, it was probably pro-Israelite propaganda before it was edited into Judges.
Uh-huh.
And as pro-Israelite propaganda, you can't have your main hero go off on a sad note.
Yeah.
So he's got to
yeah.
stick it to him one last time.
Maybe that's also why they only told me that last half in Bible study.
Yeah, because it's the
'Cause
most
they're like,
redemptive.
It's the redemptive.
Yeah.
Then it really reads as a redemptive arc.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't think you're making it up. I genuinely believe that's the arc you're taught in Sunday school. But in the original,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's in the original story. Nor is it in. And by original, I mean if you were to read it outside of Judges, how it probably originally circulated, and or in the Book of Judges. In the Book of Judges, it's not supposed to be positive at all.
No, yeah,
the way
yeah.
it's edited.
And I don't see it as like really positive. The ending, what I see is like God was still going to bring a reckoning to the Philistines, and Samson, in my head canon, Samson probably prayed to him saying, I know I messed up, I know I was supposed to be, your tool, but I fucked everything up, and if you will allow me to do this one last thing to like do a part of what I was supposed to be doing for you in the first place. And God's like, okay, one last chance.
And maybe God, I also think there's parts that I didn't talk about in the Samson stories. I also think that the way God is pictured, again in the original, not in Judges, but if we take the text out of Judges, and I can hear some of you saying you shouldn't do that, but it circulated independent of Judges at one point. I think the God in those original stories, just like the Israelites themselves, just didn't like the Philistines.
Yeah.
Just was anti-Philistine, and this ending is very anti-Philistine, pro-Israel.
Yeah. I mean, and part of it's probably they did bother to mention and have Samson get tied up at a temple while they're partying. And so it's probably like, yeah, you're still you still have these idols and you're worshiping these false gods, and that's a part of why I got to take you down.
Oh, yeah.
Because he specifically took down a temple. He allowed him to take down a temple. You know?
Yeah, totally. And you also got to remember, I don't think the story was written during this. I know it wasn't written during this period, but Jews who are reading it during the Babylonian exile, when they're in Babylon, when they're slaves, like this story, they're gonna freaking love this story, because they're gonna see in Samson someone they can relate to. If you've ever been forced to be somebody's powerful, I've never been forced to be I've never been a conquered people, but if you are a conquered people, then you're gonna read this story and you're gonna think, yeah, Samson. Yeah, he's suddenly gonna be a much more positive figure. But
here's what happens if you try to conquer us. We're gonna stick it to you. You know, even if it takes us down, we'll stick it to you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, I think it's sort of a revenge fantasy.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a sad note to end on, I think.
Well, I don't think you can't end on a positive note with the way that Samson ends. It's just not gonna do it. Like, unless you add something.
Where's those funny foxes? Bring those back, Samson.
Wait, at the end of the text, after this happens to Samson, do they say anything more about like any aftermath, or do they just go moving on now, going to another story?
It's very moving on now. If you want me to read it, I'll read it for you.
No, I believe you. If you say it's moving on now, I believe you. They've left out stuff before already, so.
His brothers and all his father's household came down and carried him up and buried him in the tomb of his father Manoah between Zorah and Eshtaol. He had led Israel for 20 years. And then it immediately cuts in 17 to a text of terror. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. 17 is probably a late addition. It's actually an appendix. There's 2 appendix to the Book of Judges that are kind of just tacked on to the end.
They just threw it on. So it
reads very much like a story that was just tacked on.
So after he takes down the temple, they're just like, and here's a couple sentences of aftermath. Here's where he was buried, and here's someone that was related to him. And
his brothers came and buried him in his father's tomb.
Yeah. See, before that, didn't hear anything about Samson having brothers. I bet they were like, why does he get the super strength? He's a dick. Like, he gave me noogies as a kid and pulled up my underwear, and I've been living a good life, and this guy gets the super strength? Damn it.
Yeah, and I thought his mom was supposed to be infertile.
Oh, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe it was she had 2 kids, and then she became infertile.
Why 2 kids? I guess brothers. At least 2 kids.
Brothers. Yeah, so I assume at least 2. 2 brothers, down. Yeah.
Or maybe it was like maybe it's also like a brothers in the sense of like, you know.
Just his people. His people. Okay, it could mean that. You're right.
I'd also have to look it up in the Hebrew, and I don't want to do that right now.
No, because honestly,
who cares?
It doesn't matter. They put it in as an afterthought. So.
Yeah. It's clearly not meant to be like, here are answers. Let me answer your questions here in the epilogue. Any of those burning questions you had.
Nothing in there at the end about Delilah being a prostitute or not?
Yeah, no, it doesn't clarify.
Damn it.
It doesn't say what exactly him moving the gate of the city did, what those foxes have to do with anything, his wife's name.
I'm okay with the foxes thing. I'll make up my own story for the foxes. That part I'm all right with.
The foxes bother me to this day.
Do they bother you
I don't understand what the advantage of the foxes were above and beyond just lighting things on fire.
I almost want to like go to other preachers now, and then just kind of very candidly and sheepishly ask them about this weird passage I read about Samson and the foxes and see what they come up with.
Oh, I've got weird passages for you to read.
See what people come up with is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, see what people say.
What's your interpretation of the foxes? And see if someone... I feel like anyone who is confident about what happened is going to be bullshitting me, and anyone who kind of like was like us and they're like, here's what it could mean, but that's kind of weird. You get it. Like, you know this is weird. I think that we should, now that we're done with the Samson one, I think that in the future, I would really like to do one on the judge Deborah. When you're talking about her, that sounded like something I'd want to touch on.
Deborah?
Deborah sounds like she might be pretty interesting.
Deborah's fun. There's less like there's less like what the fuck
content, or
there's less WTF moments.
Oh, like she had her shit together more. There was less like weird stuff.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of men failing, and I know all the women listening are like, I want to hear about men failing. That's really what that story's about.
But they just did. Samson sucked.
Yeah, you're right. They're like, Yeah, or maybe they're like, I don't need to hear more of men failing.
Like
I'd
that
like to
was
hear a
his
story.
whole. Yeah, the only thing that he did well was capture foxes. Apparently.
Yeah. You're like men failing, and what else is new?
I only do two things as Samson: capture foxes and kill Philistines.
And I'm all out of
Philistines.
foxes.
No.
Oh, damn it.
I guess it could work either way.
Yeah.
He's probably.
I mean, the Philistines are gone.
Yeah, so then you start catching foxes, getting ready for the next bout of Philistines.
Do you think that would make a good, like, you're going to, like, pick up ladies?
And
like,
then,
because, like, foxy ladies?
yeah.
Because Samson was so good. Like, you could call it, that would be, like, my player name. Dude, he's Samson.
The way he picks up foxes. He just rounds
He's
them
a
up.
Samson, yeah.
Yeah, this guy is so crazy. He just rounds up foxes like it's nothing and sets them on fire.
I think we really failed by not just talking about that one paragraph for an hour.
You know what? I bet we talked about it longer than we thought.
Yeah, instead of talking about just Samson, I should have just talked about him and those foxes.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on Fox Facts.
Fox facts.
Fox Facts 5.
Good. Yeah,
It'll be 5 minutes of Fox Facts.
Fox facts.
Fox Facts.
Did you know when they're really excited?
No. You got to save it. You got to save it for the Fox Facts 5.
Okay.
It'll be 5 minutes of Fox Facts we'll do as a small interlude one day. It'll be like a nice little bonus.
Yeah, people.
Bonus
If you're
episode.
still listening to this, you could have stopped already.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and call it. Thank you for joining me, Deuteronomist.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much, Tweester.
And we should definitely do another episode. There's plenty more. I hear there are lots of stories in this Bible.
I think it's just Samson, actually. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can scrape up something else to
I don't know
talk
where
about.
I would be able to, but I'll try.
As long as they're mostly as messed up as this one, then we will be talking about it easily.
Oh, yeah, there's a
For
lot
an
of,
hour.
like, mess. Yeah.
Or at least stories that they only gave us a partial bit because they're like, let's not talk about this over here. We got to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for listening. And until next time, this has been Tweester.
And this has been the Deuteronomist.
You guys have a good one.